I explored a 5-year Minecraft Beta 1.7.3 world to show you how enormous a scope this old version of Minecraft can have. To give you a sense of how impressive that 5-year world is, I started out by exploring a 5-day Beta 1.7.3 world submitted to me by Retro. Minecraft Beta 1.7.3 is well known for its slow gameplay, and with its lack of a sprinting mechanic and a minimal block palette, it might be hard for some to imagine the incredible things people can make in this version when given enough time, like in the 1-year world I'll be exploring later in this video too. Retro had a really quaint start for just 5 days, however, with an ambitious wall project underway, connecting to 2 bridges, both of which had a really solid framework and design. The tower in Retro's world is a real symbol of how the shrunken block palette doesn't stop people's flow of creativity. In fact, creativity is a solution to limitations such as this, not something that only exists when there are more options. Actually, quite the opposite. All the choices modern Minecraft gives you can feel overwhelming, and in an ironic sense, a little limiting in and of itself. And this is not to say you're actually limited to building structures in one block in this version. That's hardly the case, as you'll see with the tower built in the 5-year world at the end of this video. Retro also had an underground bedroom lit up by that classic lava texture. He decided to keep his first ever discovered diamonds untouched, a very sweet sentiment for a world to have. He also had a pretty creepy, tomb-esque mineshaft entrance hall. Now, I only spent about a day exploring this world, but for the 1-year and 5-year worlds, I was given 2 10 in-game day challenges to complete during my time in them. The challenge in the 5-year world would end up taking me out to over 10,000 blocks away from spawn, all without sprinting. And my 10-day challenge for the 1-year world, submitted by Tara, was to collect every obtainable item in Beta 1.7.3 for her currently in production museum. Now, while that may seem like a daunting task at first, here is the ID list for every item in this version of Minecraft. Excluding the items that are unobtainable legitimately, I only had about 150 items to collect, and with Tara having been playing in this world for over a year, I had a feeling I was going to be able to fill up most of the museum using some of her storage facilities. I couldn't help but spend the first day admiring the gorgeous German-style town Tara had made, complete with a snow-covered bridge over the ice lake. I explored her house, noticing the well-furnished basement. Nice one, Stuart. Before taking a look inside the other townhouses. I also noted she had embedded her nether portal in a kind of cave. This is the type of shit cavers with a loving wife and family at home see and dive right in. The houses themselves were all made of a fair amount of brick, which was impressive considering how difficult large amounts of clay can be to find in this version. Later on in this video, you'll see just how much brick you can really create when you have 5 years in a beta world. I tried to spend my first night in the inn Tara had built, but unfortunately it was devoid of any bedding, and I had to unlawfully stay in a neighboring home. With 9 days left on the clock, I approached the museum I would be needing to get to know quite well, considering my challenge was to collect every single obtainable item in the game. Have I mentioned that? Tara had started me off with 2 sets of armor, a kind gesture, but I would be needing a lot more. I began chucking in every individual item I had on me to begin the collection, thanks to Tara leaving her player data in the world file. This hardly made a dent though, so I began scouring the town for a storage facility, but every single chest I found was completely empty. I was about to come to the conclusion that I'd have to do a lot more item harvesting myself when I stumbled upon a sneaky opening in the back of the furnace basement. Storage galore. I took one of each item from every chest, filling up as much of my inventory as possible, and dumped it all in the museum chest. I went back and forth a few times like this, but I was beginning to realize that all the items randomly displayed in the chest like this looked pretty ugly. I thought the best way to make this museum look coherent would be to fill each chest in the order of every item ID. That way, it would at least be visually familiar to Minecraft players who've stared at all those creative menus throughout the years. I took note of the cute shrine Tara had for her first pickaxes of each mineral and decided to leave those be. With 8 days to spare, I continued transporting items between the storage room and the museum, taking care to place each item in its designated spot. I found out that luckily, the 4 double chests I had to fill in gave almost the exact amount of room I needed for all these items. Later that night, I almost perfectly recreated that famous Minecraft painting. Using the museum bed to get a night's rest, I started the 4th day in this world by fighting off some creepers. Probably the slowest based action fight you'll ever see. By this point, I'd used all the raw minerals I could from the storage chests and started crafting myself some needed items from the available materials. With 6 days left to go, I crafted all sorts of different dyes and wool colors, combining all my Minecraft recipe knowledge to craft as much as I could, including, unfortunately, a diamond hoe. With 5 days left, I was pretty happy that some of these chests were really looking quite filled up, and a whole lot more satisfying to look at than just the random dumping I was doing earlier. While crafting some extra items in the museum, I was reminded of the lovely Beta 1.7.3 feature of not being able to break away crafting tables quickly. I kept my speedy crafting regimen up though, completing the collection of all the different tools. The next day, I stopped to do some fishing to collect the 2 kinds of fish items I needed. Fish and cooked fish are the wonders you can find in the ocean of old Minecraft. I clearly was trying very hard to entertain myself while reeling in these slippery fellas. The cow very kindly donated some of its specimen to the museum as well. The only bucket-related item I was missing now was lava, and with no knowledge of Tara's mineshafts, I decided to enter the nether to collect it. Those who have seen my most recent 100 days video might not think that this was a very wise decision on my part, but anyway. A small cobblestone structure had been erected, and I followed the thin passages that were carved out into the nether walls, trying to avoid ghasts as I went. God damn, the nether was so dark back in this version. After traveling some way, I stumbled upon another portal, different to the one I came in through. Falling out of it and onto the other side, I discovered a farming location which included Tara's strip mine and a redstone contraption of sorts. Now, I never intended to dismantle anything at the start of this, but considering how many items I needed that were just lying about here, I couldn't very well help myself. Sorry, Tara. Running back through the nether, I found that there was still no lava nearby to be found. Plenty of ghast fireballs, not to mention the piglins clogging up the path. In desperation, I decided to nerdpull up to a lava patch flowing out of the ceiling, only to discover by some lovely beta glitch that the lava had no source block I could collect. All that risk and effort to climb up for nothing. But this plan was going to have to be the way to go, I decided, and I ran to the nearest lava pocket pouring out of the ceiling to do the same thing. Hopefully this one actually had a source block. Luckily, it did. Returning back to the overworld with 3 days to spare, I carefully added all the items I collected to the museum. I collected all the leaf block types I didn't have yet, and after gathering some raw pork, found that I was really close to finishing one of the double chests. I spent the rest of the day in the storage basement crafting up all sorts of items like compasses and maps to add to my collection. But waking up the next day and taking a look through the chests, I realized that with the short time I had left, I was hardly going to be able to complete this challenge, especially considering part of it would involve finding a golden apple, an item so notorious in old Minecraft that there's been an entire series dedicated to finding it. But I still had this time on my hands to fill up the museum as much as I could, so I took myself on a little boating adventure to find some of that elusive clay, which I did fairly quickly. An enormous vein of 2 whole blocks. Jokes aside, it was more than enough for my purposes. Smelting a little bit of this to get the brick I needed, I approached the museum as the sun was approaching the horizon. My time was almost up. With 1 day left to spare, I crafted as much as I could. Rail tracks, redstone rails, pressure plates, detector rails, but sadly, this day came to an end too. I was proud of my progress, and I had certainly left Tara a great collection, but without even fully completing 1 double chest, I could most definitely not call this challenge complete. Would my next challenge bring the same kind of dishonor to my name? Well, joining the 5-year Minecraft Beta 1.7.3 world submitted by Encore, or Alex, I was greeted by a collection of signs in a small hovel. My challenge was going to involve spanning Alex's entire 5-year world in just 10 days. The outer reaches of this place go out to over 10,000 blocks away from spawn. With 5 checkpoints to reach to complete the challenge and 1 Easter egg along the way, I set out from the spawn hovel with nothing in my inventory. Not before giving Alex a well-deserved shout out. Like, trust me, once you see the incredible things this world has to offer, you're gonna wish this guy made more beta content. Regardless, with 10 days to go, I began my search for the first checkpoint, crafting a few wooden tools along the way, using the delicious looking pigs to satiate whatever damage I might take over the course of the next 10 days. I spotted the first structure of this world pretty early on, filling my inventory with even more chalk pops. Filling my inventory with even more pork chops as I approached the first checkpoint. I admired the beauty of this first settlement, a humble and small village in comparison to the rest of this enormous world. Exploring this first settlement, complete with homes, watchtowers, and a bakery, I realized this entryway into Alex's world was about the size of Tara's entire 1-year world, which, by the way, was already impressive enough to me. I followed a gravel path out of the village and approached a giant, abandoned-looking railroad station. With no minecarts to use though, I followed the tracks as the sun was inching toward the horizon, feeling like Chihiro from Spirited Away for a moment. As complete darkness had fallen around me, I was suddenly very grateful that this railroad had been lit up, and that a few resources had been left along the way for me to gather. Approaching a small railroad station in the night, I discovered I could take a Minecraft either to the main base, or to something called the Island Project. More intrigued by the latter for the time being, I approached an island of glistening lights, taking a nighttime stroll across the gorgeous island landscape. There were multiple well-curated farms and a beautiful German-style house atop one of the island's hills. And if you think this project looks impressive, this is only the tip of the iceberg. We still have multiple enormous areas left to explore, each more impressive than the last. I slept in the house on top of the hill, and with 9 days left to spare for this challenge, half admired the beauty of this island and half was searching for that Lapis checkpoint pillar. From atop the hill I found myself on, I could see a little fishing bay on the coast most of the island. I explored the hilltop watchtower and walked over to the second island hill on which an observatory was built. You could indeed observe quite a lot from within this glass dome, including the checkpoint pillar I was looking for. Rushing back over to the watchtower, I found that I had reached checkpoint post 2. After this, I admired the fishing bay by the coast and also discovered the first of many quarries littered around this world. You don't get all these materials without a little bit of mining. I took one last circular tour around the island, finding a very Stampy-esque room at one point. I loved how everything seems so interconnected in this world, with all these paths and roads overlapping above each other. Interconnected with multiple entrances and exits, all taking you through a labyrinth of beautiful builds. On my way out of the island, I tried to spot what the sign said, but I could only manage to catch it in post when writing the script. And boy, oh boy, I'm glad I did. Thank you for your service, Alex. At the railroad intersection, I made my way to the main base as the sun was coming to set on the horizon. I was stopped though by a base embedded into the hill on the side of the tracks. Thinking I might have a chance to find that Easter egg early on, I stepped off the tracks and climbed my way up to it in the suddenly darkening landscape. I scoured the well for clues, checked behind every painting and analyzed every sign, but no Easter egg was to be found here, it seemed. I also put my own painting up to add some decor. Lost in the darkness trying to make my way back to the railroad tracks, I accidentally stumbled upon a castle glowing in the night, with convenient tents pitched outside to sleep in. The next morning, I entered the small castle walls and placed down 2 of the iconic Minecraft roses to add to the castle. It seemed I had managed to enter through the back of the main base area, a place known as Stoneholm. Alex creatively made a really cool lava artwork embedded into the walls, and I also stumbled upon another one of his many quarries. Climbing up to the scientist's hideout, I saw what must have been the railroad I was supposed to come in on. This base area looked absolutely enormous already, but you have no idea how much more is in store for this world. We're hardly even a few hundred blocks out of spawn by this point. I continued walking along the gravel pathways that were lined with lampposts and directional signs. I tried to remember all the paths that I didn't walk down so that I could return to them later. I stumbled upon a very heartwarming build in the woods, which was a tribute to Alex's dog, Yafa. It's builds like these that I stumbled across while exploring his world, not all of which he felt comfortable with me showing in the videos, so I didn't show those ones, that really imbue this already incredible world with so much soul and heart, and in a weird way a kind of loneliness, and knowing that no one else lives in this single player world and that these monuments for those who have passed is exactly that, just for them. I continued walking along the winding gravel pathways, encountering cabins, bridges, and a greenhouse, from which I could see some enormous structures in the distance. I tried my best to remember where the forks in the gravel paths were for later, but for the time being I couldn't help but hop on the tracks I managed to find. I figured this would take me into the main base center, and oh my god, did I see some of the most beautiful vistas I've ever gotten out of beta Minecraft as the sun was setting. On my arrival in the core of the main base, I found and used a very clever redstone contraption and admired the large pixel art outside. In search of secret Easter eggs, I finally discovered a painting actually concealing a hidden area. This led me to where Alex kept his valuables, and you can bet I swapped out some old gear for new. Admiring the skyscraper I'd seen a few times from a distance by this point, I slept in this hidden area I'd stumbled upon. With 7 days left to go and the third post nowhere to be seen, I had to get back to the task at hand. But damn, I just couldn't help but stop and admire the beauty of the work Alex had done. From atop the mountain the main base was carved into, I got a nice view of the area the tracks had first taken me to, getting a good look at the pixel art from above. Turning around, wouldn't you know it, I saw that beautiful blue pillar, whose base suspiciously lit on fire as I approached it. Weird. From up here I got to marvel at Alex's main base area, which stretched all the way to the horizon of my render distance, from the desert city to my left to the skyscraper on my right, not to mention who knew what lay beyond the scope of my vision. I got a little sneak peek of a really cool looking tower build across the bay, which was filled with builds such as a giant creeper, a hot air balloon, a whale, a lighthouse, and what seemed to be a bridge to another castle build. Deciding I was more interested in that area than the desert for now, I made my way over there, encountering the world's largest greenhouse along the way. Afterwards I got to gaze up at the magnificent skyscraper from within it. Making my way across the bridge that took me across the water, I got to admire Alex's giant animal builds. I entered the castle grounds, taking a close look around for any possible Easter eggs. I could have taken the railroad tracks to some next location, but the allure of the wizard tower was too much. This build was genuinely so awesome, and despite the limited block palette, it came off as a beautiful work, particularly when viewed from a distance from literally any angle. Climbing a set of wooden stairs, I encountered a mansion which looked like it utilized an absolutely magnificent amount of clay for its roof. Wanting to get a closer look, I climbed its interior stairs and found, would you guess what, in the attic. I went to sleep as the moon rose ahead of me, and when I woke up with still 6 days to go to complete this challenge, I realized I now found myself situated hardly a few hundred blocks away from spawn. I had a final checkpoint to find that was over 10,000 blocks away. I admired the interior of this mansion a little more with all its floors and details. I also found a rapidly descending staircase which led me to a nether portal. Now, as I had never seen what Alex's nether looked like, I decided to enter it. Once inside, I followed the ominous dug-out path to a collection of doors. One led outside, and as it seemed on the surface here anyway, it didn't seem like Alex was particularly interested in building in the nether much. Hard to blame him. I discovered an interesting sign, a path that apparently led to the new world. I could only imagine that's what Alex's build area over 10,000 blocks out was. Riding the minecart track as far as it could take me, I was reminded of how funny it was that A, Minecraft overworld music still played in the nether in this version, and B, no matter how far you are from a ghast, if they are at all close enough to be audible, they always sound like they're right on top of you. My enjoyable railroad ride unfortunately got cut short, and I had to switch to walking slowly on foot for a while. I eventually ran into another part of the track again and hopped in the minecart I found on top of it. Other than having to deal with a few pigmen along the way, it was a largely smooth ride. After 10 minutes of travel time, I finally saw the soft glow of a portal up ahead. Stepping through it into the new world, I noticed a neat detail that Alex was returning broken tools back to his main base. I made a mental note to take those back with me when I was finished scouring this new world. I hopped onto another set of rails which brought me out of the depths where the nether portal was kept. Making my way through a maze of doors and stairways, I came across an exit onto a bridge where I witnessed the beautiful new world for the first time. Looking at all this, I was reminded that you can't sprint in this version, there's no elytra, no way to speed up the base gameplay mechanics. This world is a product of pure dedication and a whole lot of time. The reason I noted each section would be more impressive than the last is because while the new world might not be the biggest of all the areas, Alex had to transport almost all of the resources he used to build here from over 10,000 blocks away. I was hoping I would find a bed in the cabin by the bridge, but I was apparently sorely mistaken. Instead, I descended into the village below, admiring the softly glowing houses and churches, eventually coming to rest in a stranger's home. With 5 days left for this challenge, I was starting to feel pretty confident I would complete it. The Easter egg part, however, would be the difficult thing to find. I didn't even know if it looked the same as all the pillars I'd been looking for. I admired the village in the daytime, noting how much care was put into the design of each build. I stumbled upon a cathedral-looking build that was clearly an Alex-only zone. Respecting this, I walked away from the entrance. I saw a sky island up in the air and wondered if it had all been made, was entirely naturally generated, or had been manually cut off from the ground below it. Either way, it was super cool. I made my way up the stream of the floating island, hoping to get a good view of the new world below. I explored the cabin on top of this floating island, and oh my, did it have some amazing views. Speaking of, I got a good look at the gorgeous village down below and hopped into the lake underneath me to continue exploring it.
So guys,
I still had my final checkpoint to find after all. I walked past a horse stable that used a very creative alternative for mud and continued on underneath the enormous arch of the mountain and the bridge. Making my way past another brick roof house, I noticed a wizard statue in the distance mysteriously point outward. I'm about to find Woe's Hollow in Minecraft Beta 1.7.3. I encountered a work in progress Garden of Eden build and admired the sun lowering toward the bridge. I slept in the tower I climbed up and with only 4 days to spare, continued my search for the last checkpoint. I could now see that the wizard was pointing to some kind of stone structure, and after walking over to get a closer look, I found it was a kind of Minecraft Stonehenge. Clearly, I was at the edge of the New World territory by this point, but I just had to see what was written on that ominous sign out in the bay. Right. Project seems to be going well then. I made my way back to where the brick-roofed house was and discovered a multi-room farm of sorts which connected up to a mysterious tunnel and stairway. I emerged into the interior of what must have been the castle I saw at the other end of the bridge when I arrived. The interior had a very Ethos Lab man cave vibe to it with the grass green flooring. Exiting into the outdoor castle area, I was greeted with another clever redstone contraption, a gate for the castle that could only be opened from the inside. Good thing I came in the way I did, otherwise I would have had to have broken it. I explored the castle grounds a bit more, spotting an untapped well of awesome building potential in the landscape behind it. I don't know why Mojang thinks we want realistic terrain in modern Minecraft. We want the fantasy elements, the nonsensical cascading rocks and overlapping cliffs. It gave Minecraft a unique visual element that's missing from the average modern day experience in my opinion. Clambering up more stairs and ladders, I suddenly came into very close contact with the 5th and final post. I didn't expect this challenge to be completed so unceremoniously, but that's just how life is, isn't it? Now, having officially completed the challenge, I set off to explore all the areas I'd missed over the last 7 odd days to hopefully find that Easter egg. I closed the castle doorway behind me, I wasn't born in no barn, and set off towards the nether railroad station I came in through. I admired the new world once more before setting off back to the main base. I once again had to find my way through the maze of wooden doors, redstone contraptions, and ladders to make my way back to the nether portal room. I took the worn down tools with me to return to the main base for Alex. You're welcome. I spent the rest of the day returning through the nether, discovering I had come through a different nether portal. Conveniently, this one popped out right into the desert I still needed to explore. With the soft C418 Minecraft soundtrack playing in the background, I admired the glowing landscape of the main base area. I found another quarry within Alex's mountain base as the sun began to rise on my 8th day in this world. I admired the airship and the custom-made bird in the sky, and then began my walk through the desert, noting a large portion of land I hadn't explored next to it. Underneath these enormous stone archways, I discovered a few mushroom farms with creepers keeping them guard. Climbing up a set of stairs that went into the mountains, I found a cool nether portal shrine. This path also connected up to the high-up bridge I saw earlier about the desert. The Minecraft desert biome has always felt like the hardest to build in for me. There's just never enough going on with the landscape to keep me excited to build, yet looking at what Alex had done with it, I could see there was a good amount I could do with the biome, like sandstone structures and small marketplaces. I found a bridge behind the desert that connected back to the giant mansion from earlier, bringing this main base area to a complete full circle of builds around a naturally generated bay. Genuinely so impressive for one man to slowly put together. I walked back around the base, taking the railroad past the tower this time, hoping to return to all those gravel pathways in the woods I had only taken a few of. This was kind of my last resort with regards to finding the Easter egg checkpoint. On my way I encountered an underwater passageway that led to a small farm. Oh, and a self-made shout out to Encore. I found myself in a small cabin along the gravel path, hoping I could use it to skip the night, but alas, it had no bed. Killing sheep while dodging the many creepers trying to jump me was definitely not how I expected to spend my last few days in this world. Finally though, I managed to craft myself a signature red bed. I placed this down in the otherwise empty attic, waking up with 2 days left to find this Easter egg. But unfortunately, I had much less actual uncharted territory to check. Whether I found this Easter egg or not, this would be my last day in Alex's world. Oh, and shout out to Minecraft, by the way. I made my way back to the woods where I had missed so many jutting off gravel paths and began to meticulously check each one. I found a secret mob spawner area behind a waterfall, a pink wool tent which gave me some revelating news, and a tower I had missed checking the interior of. I climbed to the top hoping I would have the luck of the last place I hadn't checked being where this Easter egg would be, but alas, nothing. Realizing then that I still didn't know if the Easter egg even looked the same as the other checkpoints, I knew that this challenge was ultimately harder than it had first come across. But having checked everywhere I could think of, I gave up on this final aspect of the challenge. I'd completed the main task and I was happy with that. Maybe the Easter egg was the friends we made along the way. No, but seriously, these worlds have been an absolute pleasure to explore. The common thread throughout all of them has been the obvious passion and interest in the game Retro, Tara, and Alex have all shown. To me, there is no ideal way to play the game, no ideal player that tops the charts. Everyone is on the same scale in Beta 1.7.3. I think it's just about how much time you're willing to pour into your world, which is clearly what differentiates these three worlds from one another. I am, however, a real fan of Alex's personal touches to his world in the form of his monuments. It made the world seem like an extension of him, and in turn made me rather emotionally attached to it as I explored its empty houses, castles, landscapes, and towers. If you'd like to try any of the challenges in this video for yourself, you can find the world downloads in the description. On another note, if you have a world you'd like to submit for a video like this, no matter the age of the world, join my Discord server in the description and submit some screenshots to the Minecraft Showcase forum on the server. And make sure to include the age of your world in the title if you're submitting it for this series. Anyway, that's it from me. Have a good one. I'll see you around.